Who do we think are the Superman's worst villains? Find out. Hey everybody, welcome once again to Comic Universe, the only geek-centered site you need in your life. And today we're going to be talking about our top 10 favorite Superman villains. And when I said worst earlier in the intro, I meant like worst of the worst. Like, who do we think does Superman really have the worst time with?
Right.
Yeah.
Basically, we're going to go down the list of who we think are his best villains, if you will.
Yeah.
Our top 10s, if you will. If you have a different top 10, great on you. Let us know in the comments below.
We're always interested to hear about your...
Of course, we want that. We can interact with you guys and kind of bounce some ideas off and, you know, see where we go from there.
Yeah.
So, this is your brainchild, so I'm going to let him go first. So go ahead with your number 10.
My number 10 is Livewire.
Livewire, okay, that's pretty good.
Livewire, to me, is always such an interesting villain because I always dig electric characters.
Right.
And she's so fun because she was just like, I just fucking hate Superman because why not?
Right.
She's such like a Superman villain because she just wants to be.
And wasn't she like
she
like
was
Harley Quinn? She was created for the animated series,
and then she got transitioned to comics. Yeah, I think that's how it was.
Pretty cool. Yeah, I'm almost 100% sure that that's exactly what happened. That's really dope. I do like her. What do you think about her as a kind of trying to be a hero now?
Oh yeah, that's happening, right?
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. I always prefer to, like, if anywhere she was gonna be, I'd say like she'd be cool in Suicide Squad.
Yeah, that's kind of the realm that she's kind of going into. So she's in the animated Suicide Squad. That was Killer Frost. Never mind, change that.
Yeah,
that was Livewire. Sorry.
Don't worry, they look almost alike because the artists. I think she's fun because Superman's villains are all like, "I'm going to kill you, Superman." She's like, "I'm just gonna screw with you, just because I don't like you." Like, it's a big joke to her,
right?
But not like Joker-wise. It's more like, yeah, I'm just doing this to piss you off. She's pretty much an internet troll for Superman. That's all she is.
Yeah, pretty much. I would agree.
Yeah.
All right, so my number 10 is going to be the infamous Mr. Mxyzptlk. Mr. Mixie, if you will. He's someone, speaking of screwing with Superman, I mean, who is the ultimate screwer of Superman, if you will, as dirty as that sounds? It's him. I mean, we're talking about the first internet troll, if you will, probably. Like, he was the troll before there was ever a word classified for those type of trolls. I mean, he's kind of pops in, pops out whenever he wants.
Yeah.
Messes with him on a personal level, mental level, physical level. He's just a constant thorn in the backside of the Man of Steel.
And what's interesting about him is that Superman has to outthink him. He can't just punch this enemy away.
He's far too powerful for Superman to just do that.
Yeah.
And he's someone you have to outthink him, be one step ahead of him. I mean, you just gotta be on your toes. And he's a character, really, you know, that his power is so vast that, I mean, at any second, I mean, could you imagine if characters like that really exist? You'd be paranoid, like on edge whenever he's going to pop in to mess with your life. And whenever something strange happened at all, he'd probably be like, the wind could blow the wrong way one day, you know, or blow your door closed and you think it was him. You know, you'd just be freaking out. So that would be my number 10.
All right, cool. My number 9 is Parasite.
Awesome.
This is an interesting villain because I just love when he shows up.
Right.
I don't think he's ever used. I hardly think and when he is used, he's more like monster. Like, it's interesting because like a lot of these villains are more like, I just enjoy when they show up because if Superman has such a rich. I hate it when people say, "Oh, Superman doesn't have a lot of good villains outside of Brainiac and Luthor and Darkseid." You know, by now. He doesn't have a great villains. He's like, he does. No one just uses them. That's
true. No one. I mean, it's also because a lot of people don't know how to write Superman. It's the problem. They just don't get the character, so they don't get his villains, if you will.
Yeah.
And another thing that's really cool about Parasite, he can almost really just be like a creature feature. Like he can't. And when you say sometimes when he's just like, oh, monster. Sometimes that's interesting, you know. But you have to work it like he is a creature feature, if you will, like a B movie, or if you will, you know, just this tyrant that Superman can't even get close to because if he gets touched, it's game over, man. Game over.
I would say, like, I prefer, like, I've always, like, because everything that happened to him was more like he just had shit luck. So I've always like, if I could write a Superman comic with Parasite, it would be Parasite is just kind of like, I hate my life. And it's not even Superman's fault. It was all me, but I really need to eat, and Superman's the only one who can give me any energy, proper energy. So I hate my life, and I think I can't do anything about it. Because I always like him being like, I don't want to be this way, but I can't help it because of circumstances.
Right.
And even in the animated series, he was like that. Rudy Jones was like, I just want a flat screen TV in my jail cell. That was his whole goal in one episode.
Yeah, that is true. That was pretty funny. I remember that episode. And it is. You can kind of understand, like you said here. He's just can't do anything about the situation. He just needs to feed, and then it's also like a drug in a sense too. Once you fed off of someone as powerful as Superman, how the hell are you going to feed off anyone else? Like if he was going to give you adequate enough power, or sustenance in his case, no. Yeah. So yeah, it's a very difficult situation to be. And my number 9 is actually going to go same right along with you. It was actually Parasite as well for mine. Neither one of us know each other's list here, so it's just sheer coincidence. He is my number 9 pick too, for all the same reasons as you put. Plus, like I said, it's just kind of cool when you get to see him. He's a character too that you can't just, with all the power Superman has, he can't just punch him to oblivion.
Yeah.
He can't punch his way out of that fight. Sure, he can use a flagpole or a telephone pole or something, a tree, to battle him at a distance. But the second he gets close, and a lot of times, Parasite gets the jump on Superman, just jumps from a building, lands on him or something like that. So it's definitely a character that you have to think your way out of the situation, because you can't just go fight toe to toe with him. So
what would be kind of fun to do with Parasite? It would almost make him like Venom was for Spider-Man in the early '80s. Like Superman can't sense him or anything, and he's just like, I can hunt you no matter where you go, and you can't touch me.
Yeah, that could be pretty cool. That if somehow is like his ability is morphed, or since he's been a part of him, he can't hear him.
Yeah, like
something.
His DNA is so altered that he can actually get the drop on Superman.
Yeah, like Superman can't hear him or smell him. Or see him.
Because if you want to go real parasites evolve rapidly to feed on their hosts better.
Right.
So I think it would be cool. His genetics have evolved to the point where he's now become Superman's apex predator.
Yeah. No. Exactly. That would be. I was just gonna say, evolve to be the ultimate predator. That would be really cool.
Yeah.
DC, if you're watching, we give you the okay to take that one.
Or let me write it.
Oh yeah, that's another.
That's better. I'll write it. I'm just saying, I'll do it.
Just put us on the payroll. We'll give you all the ideas. You can do what you want after that. To be honest with you, just throw us on the payroll. We'll take care of the rest.
Yeah.
So moving on, number 8.
My number 8 is Metallo.
Metallo, okay.
Another villain Superman just can't punch. And it's different from Parasite because he generally hates Superman, even though in the New 52 it was Lois's dad who did this to him,
right,
who made him in that monster. I think it's really cool because he's a robot man with a kryptonite heart. How cool, what else can you really do with that?
Essentially the Terminator.
Yeah.
Right?
He's Superman's Terminator.
Basically.
And I think it's really cool how he's managed to, this is another villain Superman can't punch, but there's a general hate for him, rather than, Parasite was like, I need to feed off of you because I need to survive. It's more like, I don't, it's your fault I was turned into a weapon, So, even though I signed up for all that, I'm gonna fucking kill you.
Right, yeah. And my number 8 would be Atomic Skull.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, to be honest, it's more of an aesthetic for me. With him.
No, I get it.
He's just awesome to look at, pretty unique power set. And it's really the animated version. Even though he was never a big focal point, I just was always clamoring and wanting more from him. I don't really have much to say other than it's more aesthetics when it comes to him. I just really dig the concept of him more so than the actual execution.
Yeah, I always get excited when I see Atomic Skull.
Oh, sweet, awesome.
He's a radioactive Ghost Rider.
Right, exactly. It's freaking awesome. And there's an episode, I don't remember what it's called, but there's an episode of Justice League, not Justice League, the one that came after Justice League, with all the superheroes.
Unlimited?
Unlimited, thank you. Justice League Unlimited, where they're fighting in the cage, cage fighting, and it's really Black Canary centric.
Yeah.
And it's funny enough, somehow, some way, Black Cat is in there just beating the crap out of.
You mean Black Canary?
No.
You said Black Cat.
No, yeah.
You mean Wildcat?
Wildcat, thank you. Jesus Christ. Get my nerd card pulled there. Anyway, but he's just beating the crap out of Atomic Skull. I'm just like, how is that even possible?
He should be at least getting cancer.
Yeah, I'm like, what's going on here?
Well, to be fair, he shows up in this comic called Superman Ending Battles, which features a villain on this list as the main antagonist. And Atomic Skull goes after Superman's parents. Mm-hmm. And Jonathan Kent actually takes him out with a shotgun. So if Jonathan Kent can take out Atomic Skull...
Well, again, that's a shot, but if you're going to get up face-to-face and punch him in the face, that's just not going to work. It's Atomic Skull. Your hand's going to dissolve. You know, especially if you're just a normal human. But that episode always stood out to me because he's treated like a peon in the cage, and Wildcat just literally wipes the floor with him, and he moves on, like advances in the tournament. I don't know if you've ever seen that episode.
I've seen it, yeah.
But it's just like, what the hell? Anyway... So moving on, your number 7.
My number 7 is Bizarro.
Awesome.
And I've always dug Bizarro. I thought he was a really cool concept. I've always liked clone Bizarro rather more than Bizarro World stuff.
Yes, right.
Because Bizarro to me, he's an innocent creature, you know. Mm-hmm. And like, if you ever seen, and this is going to be so weird, I really dig in Lego Justice League 2, the Bizarro story. In there, it's all about Bizarro making his own Justice League. And in this story, it's not even, because it's called Justice League versus Bizarro League. They don't even fight. It's more like the Justice League teams up with the Bizarro League to fight Darkseid because he's stealing all these rocks that Bizarro thinks are his citizens. And in there, and the reason why in this story Bizarro is on Bizarro World is because Superman brought him here. Superman's like, yeah, this is your world. You're going to protect it. And Bizarro's like, because we're brothers. And it's a great story arc because Superman's like Bizarro even says, "You only sent me here because you're ashamed of me." And I was like, "Oh, this is a Lego story too." And like Superman even says, "You're my," like at the end of it, he's like, "You're my brother." And he's like, "Twin brother?" Adopted.
Estranged, adopted, second, twice removed.
But I like that. It's like, because I like when stories are like that, where Bizarro he's essentially like the Frankenstein monster from, you know, the Boris Karloff Frankenstein.
Right. No, I was going to say when you mentioned in the beginning, he's very like innocent. I was going to say kind of like, you know, he's a Frankenstein-ish.
Yeah, he means well. You know, he really wants to be Superman, but he has no control, and he's essentially a child. You know, and again, he's so sweet, but you know, he's so violent at the same time. Like, so. I don't know, I just always enjoy Bizarro when he shows up. I'm just always happy when he shows up. And there's actually a comic where, before they brought Zod back in the pre-52 comics, they used this, like, I remember, like, some guy who was, like, a Russian, and he called himself Zod, and he had this power suit, and he takes out, because he can't beat Superman, he instead kidnaps Bizarro and beats him to death on the grounds of, I can't beat Superman, but I'm going to take my anger out on you. And Bizarro the whole time is trying to protect Lois. Like,
interesting.
And
I did not know that existed.
Yeah. And it's so sad because Bizarro's dying in her arms. And he's just like, me hero. And I'm like, I'm going to go cry now.
Yeah, I mean, he is an unfortunate, and it's hard to call him a villain sometimes. Yeah. It really, really is.
Because you can see it, he's been like a hero character. I remember when DC did like this Guardians of the Galaxy-esque story and Bizarro was a member of it. I was like, I would like comics where Bizarro's out in space, you know, teaming up with Adam Strange and all that.
How do you feel with him being
in Krypton?
No, with Speedy in the comics.
Outlaws.
Outlaws, yeah.
I think it's interesting. Like they've done some. This comic's actually a lot better than the New 52 Outlaws. Mm-hmm. But I say that in the context that it was Outlaws. I like it, and there's actually some. I teared up when where Artemis and Roy were essentially, not Roy, Jason were talking about he's too powerful. We have to kill him. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's almost like a look at the rabbits, George. Or tell me about the rabbits, George moment. I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna fucking cry right every time I read a Bizarro book. I feel like tearing up. So
it might be because you're from Bizarro World, to be honest.
Shut up.
All right, guys. So moving on. My number 7 is going to be Zod, General Zod. I mean, what's there to say? I mean, that
well, he's my number 6, so.
I mean, so I guess we can we already know what your 6 is. So,
yeah.
To be honest, I mean, what can you say that hasn't already been said? I mean, he's obviously got all the powers of Superman, but you know, I've always viewed him as someone a little more, obviously more strategic, if you will. I always see him more of a better fighter, in my opinion, just because of his military prowess. And I just always like the idea that, you know, there's just someone out there equal enough to Superman that can just come in and just wreck shit. You know, he can come in at any time, and for all the good that Superman has done for the people, like that, it could be all over.
Yeah, and like we talked about earlier in the Superman Brainiac comic, where he's a survivalist. You know, he's very much like, you know, Krypton first and all that, and it's interesting because they've used him a lot in Rebirth. Like, he was in a Suicide Squad comic where they were trying to, and that's actually a really cool concept of, they want to send villains to the Phantom Zone now, and then we have him now as a Green Lantern villain. I think it's kind of cool. Like, did you read the Forever Evil comic one shot with him?
Yeah.
I thought that was actually pretty badass.
It is, yeah. I mean, and it is. That's another thing that speaks to that particular character. That obviously, you know, we're talking Green Lanterns, we're talking space adventures, if you will, and him being an alien, he kind of fits. But that is perfect. I can see him as, you know, a Green Lantern villain as well, and you know, equally wrecking shit with them. I mean, to be honest with you, the dude is he's awesome. You're gonna kneel before him, regardless, right?
Yeah. He is. The other thing is that he adds an extra element where he's got military training.
Right.
Imagine if Superman had. Imagine. And
that's what I'm saying. His prowess is just the next level above Superman. All the same powers, but
he's got that extra edge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And not just edge. It's like, it's killer instinct. It's survivalist. It's military prowess.
And he doesn't hold back.
Yeah, he doesn't. Right.
Yeah.
He does everything full force. He's essentially what Superman wants to be when he's fighting, like the likes of Darkseid, where he's like, you know, the famous line of being in a cardboard world, if you will.
Yeah.
You know, being able, this is the one rare time I get to unleash. Zod has no problem with unleashing from the moment the match starts.
Yeah, he's like, so we're going to hold back? No.
Right? I'm going to hit you full force. And, you know, even in the movie, Man of Steel, there were some elements to the character I did like. Especially the whole, when it came to, you know, for his people and wanting to do right by them, if you will. You know, it's just really, it was fantastic to finally get that Superman scene, regardless of all the death and destruction, but it was kind of
Not
cool.
the neck break scene.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a whole nother
issue.
Ball of worms, if you will. But, you know, everything, you know, every time I've ever seen the character, even, what was it called, where he himself was Superman in those little animated, like the alternate take where he was Superman.
Yeah, I know those.
It was really cool to see him in that role, kind of like a tweener between, he was a good guy.
He was essentially Vegeta.
Yeah, like he was kind of a good guy, but he still kind of did things dirty, if you will.
Yeah.
Like he had no problem killing a kid. To be honest with you, he was like, oh, all right, whatever, I'll do it. So.
Well, wait, you're talking about the Gods and Monsters.
Gods and Monsters.
Yeah, where it was Zod's kids. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So. So he was still a good guy. He was doing the right thing, but maybe going about it the wrong way.
Like that mini they had where Zod's kids like marching through the city, and there's a bus like screaming for help, and he's like, "I got to take care of this first."
Yeah.
And that's interesting because he's like, "I'm going to save these people, but I can't be distracted by anything else." You know. And I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And he's actually like, I dig Gods and Monsters. If we ever talk about that, like,
we'll put that on the bill.
Yeah. So,
all right, so I guess since we already know what your number 6 was, it was my number 7. I guess that makes it my turn at number 6.
I'll do number 5.
Okay, go ahead. Jump on number 5. Jump ahead of me.
My number 5 is, believe it or not, Cyborg Superman.
Okay.
And I know that's really weird. It's like, Zod's number 6 and Cyborg Superman's number 5? What the fuck's wrong with you? Like, I think I dig Cyborg Superman because, much like with Zod, where it's all the powers of Superman, but he's a fucking computer. He's so that's so terrifying. And I know he was overused a lot, and nobody really likes him because not a lot of people dug Return of Superman or Reign of the Superman.
Superman, yeah.
Oh, that was a clusterfuck, wasn't it? And of course, he's the guy who, alongside Mongol, blew up Krypton. Not Krypton, Coast City.
Yeah.
Sorry. I mean, we're talking about a show called Krypton.
Yeah, I know.
Coast City, and starred the whole parallax thing. But I think he's really interesting in the fact that he's got this added element of, I can easily tap into a computer and no matter what, keep surviving. You're going to die one day, Cal. I'm going to be forever. And that's the other thing. He wants to die. You know, he's suicidal. And imagine if Reed, because this whole story is very much like the Fantastic Four. Mm-hmm. If you don't know this origin of the cyborg Superman, I'll tell you right now. Just abridged. He was a scientist whose whole family was on an experimental rocket. They all, quote-unquote, died, but his subconsciousness survived inside electronics. He built his own Superman, like, cyborg body and came back as the cyborg Superman. And he's essentially become like a Green Lantern villain now. But he's so interesting because he's maniacal, he's psychotic, and he knows it. Like, he knows he
relishes in it.
Yeah.
He's fine with it, yeah.
Yeah.
Funny enough, that's your number 5. He's my number 6. I swear, guys, we didn't go through this. Maybe we should have, but he's my number 6 for all the same reasons. But, you know, just to kind of touch on that, just real quick, you know, he's essentially another Terminator, if you will, facing Superman. But I think he's got the additive of, he's kind of like Ultron. Like you said, he just can kind of download into anything, whether it's subconscious or purposely, and Superman can just never seem to get rid of him. Like, he's just always there whenever he doesn't want him to be, you know? And he's aesthetically, he's freaking cool looking. Yeah. He's absolutely awesome. He freaking looks like a freaking Terminator with Superman curl. Come on!
And oddly enough, he actually showed up in the Superman Terminator crossover. He was the main villain in that.
I didn't read that. That's pretty awesome.
Do yourself a favor and don't. That's not great. So, I guess my number 4 then?
Number 4.
My number 4 is Manchester Black.
Okay, awesome.
And people are thinking, who? Manchester Black showed up. Most of you guys would know him best from the Superman vs. the Elite movie. Manchester Black's so
interesting. He's my number 5.
This is actually, like, kind of fun. Like, I'm glad we didn't plan this because this is all the more fun. Manchester Black is so freaking cool because he's, in a weird way, he's trying to, like, teach Superman a lesson.
Right.
Because he doesn't see himself as a villain, and he is trying to be like, look, you inspired me to be a hero, but you're not doing it right.
Right.
I'm going to kill these people, and that's what needs to be done. And Superman, it brings another level of, is Superman, you know, still relevant these days? And he has to keep proving himself to Black that he is, you know.
Yeah, I mean, he's essentially, he has the views of the Punisher with superpowers.
Yeah, with psychic power. Imagine if Punisher had Jean Grey's powers.
Exactly, like with a British accent.
Yeah. So Psylocke.
Yeah, right. He just has the thought process of the Punisher, but you know where the Punisher has this oath or this belief system, you know, where, you know, if you're a bad guy, you deserve to die, but, you know, just because, you know, if you're a good guy, he'll kind of go out of his way for you. Like, you don't, with Black, there's kind of shades of gray. He doesn't, like, he kind of eventually comes to the point where he just does what he wants to do, to be honest with you.
And he, like, he
like,
wants
he's
to
jaywalk, and it's like, oh, you're dead.
Yeah. And he wants to make Superman go to his level.
Right. And that becomes a game to him eventually.
And he's a test of Superman's morals.
Right, he's wanting to prove to him, and the animated was fantastic too. I don't know if did you see?
Yeah, I've seen. I love that movie.
It's fantastic, and just the whole scene where you get to see Superman, like, where he thinks for a second, okay, I did get him on my level, but now he's coming at me. It's like, what the hell did I just do?
He didn't think that.
I was like, oh shit, I take it back, and then Superman's like, no take backsies, you're mine, and he just totally, like, I could totally see him just like pissing himself in that scene, or pooping himself in that scene, just like he realized, all right, I just convinced Superman to go ahead and kill the people who stand in his way and do evil, and I'm doing evil, and I'm in his way. Oh shit!
Maybe I should have like taken a few steps out of here.
Right, where's the time machine when you need it? Superman, go backwards, please. Turn Earth around. But yeah, that's when you get to see it. If we're talking the anime, just the look on his face where Superman is just like bloodied. He's beaten. He just seemed to have gone through hell. The world has kind of turned on him. He seems to have like no leg to stand on. Okay, and everyone who has loved Superman now is like not on his side, and he's like, okay, I see your point. I'm gonna kill you now. I love that scene. It was so great.
He essentially like punks the whole world.
Right, exactly. And then he performs brain surgery. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just such an interesting villain in that he's a test for Clark's morals, and he is this villain, and psychic villains are always kind of cool.
Right.
And there's a really cool story with him by Jeff Johns and Joe Casey and all these other people called Ending Battles, where he psychically tells all of Superman's villains, he's Clark Kent, go get him. And they go after all of his family members, friends and family members, and he kidnaps Lois and actually like psychically rapes her. And he psychically tortures, and it's implied he mentally raped her.
That's how they usually like to do it. They like to imply.
Yeah.
They can't really.
Yeah.
Very rare.
But and that's the part where like he psychically tells him that, oh, I killed Lois, and Superman like stops. He's like, no, you still that would be too easy for you. I'm going to honor Lois and throw your ass in jail. And he's like, I didn't kill Lois, and he's like, cheers, mate, and kills himself somewhere else. Because
I want to check that out. I have not.
I actually have it. I'll let you loan it. We'll do it as this.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on. Number 4, since C was my number 5, so
Yeah.
that makes it your number 4 now.
All right. My number 4. No, that was my number 4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well, then that makes it.
Yeah, you're number 4.
Okay, so my number 4. Oh, yeah, you're right. Okay. So my number 4 is going to be kind of a random one. Okay. And I don't truly have a reason why I have him so high up on the list, because he's kind of goofy. Okay.
Boy.
And he's more than just really a Superman villain, but it just, something about him stands out to me, and it's Starro. He's not, I know, right?
Explain, please.
It's just something about the whole concept of, he's an alien, obviously, so that's really where the ties start with Superman and the whole Justice League connection. But, I hate to keep going back to the anime and things like that. It's just, these are just some things that we're doing this so much on the wing that this is what's popping in my head. So just, whenever it took control of him and he was essentially evil, okay, we got to see a side of Superman that you don't always get to see, and it's usually in some degree, whatever it is that you're reading, it's continuity. It's not like the Red Sun where it's like that's a great version of Superman, but it's not continuity. Superman's gonna hurt someone or kill someone, and he's got Starro wrapped around him. He's not in control of himself, but he still did it. You still got to see the evil shit that he could essentially do if he wanted to. And I dig it because it's a creature. Like, I'm really big into those creature features and movie monsters, if you will, and I kind of see him as that. And I've never really truly necessarily read any great Starro story or anything like that.
That's going to change in a moment because, if for those who don't know, Scott Snyder's Justice League No Justice actually has Starro teaming up with Superman and Sinestro.
Mm-hmm. So
I
don't know, and he has evolved also now. Like in Metal, he's got psychic powers. He doesn't have to touch you to really affect you.
Yeah.
So he starts messing with the Green Lantern in the Metal series that's going on right now. But I don't know, man. There's just something about him being such a creature feature that I just always found myself drawn to him, if you will.
Yeah.
So that's my number 4.
All right, so my number 3 right out of the gate are going to be pretty basic. You can probably guess at this point who are the top 3.
Right.
But my number 3 is Darkseid.
Darkseid, okay.
And I know he's more of a Justice League villain, but he started out as a Superman villain. Darkseid simply is. That's all you need to... he is this god of evil, the evil embodiment.
Right.
And he just comes around, beats Superman around, and he is a threat to everybody. He is the ultimate threat to the DC Universe. And there's not much you could say about him. He's just, when you see him, you're like, oh shit, things are about to get real. It's almost like what we're going through with Thanos in Infinity War. And I know I don't want to fan any flames, but that's the best comparison. When Darkseid shows up, it's a bad situation.
Right, yeah, and if you don't have Superman around, you need to get Superman around, ASAP.
Yeah, because there's nothing Batman really has to fight him.
Well, he's got a bullet with his name on it, but.
But then when we sent to the Omega section.
Right, exactly. No, but he's definitely a fantastic character, one of the greatest. Thanks to Jack Kirby for bringing him to us. Absolutely. He, like you said, he's the Thanos. He's the Apocalypse. He just is. Yeah, like you said it. For the sake of entertainment value, I'll be honest, I'm going to keep him off of my list. Maybe he's just...
Really?
Yeah, I'm going to...
I thought about taking him off the list.
So easy, especially because right at this point, my last three and your last three are probably going to be the same, and everyone's top three are probably going to be the same. So for the sake of entertainment value, I'm going to take him and just move him into a subclass, or he's too big of a character.
He's a DC Universe.
Yeah, he's a DC Universe character, and the same almost could be said for Starro, but whatever. I'm gonna take him out, and so I won't use him because he was my number 3 as well.
You just didn't want to keep this,
But again, for entertainment value, I'm gonna wing it here. I'll move one slot up, and my number 3 would be Lex Luthor.
Because he's my number 2. So.
Yeah, so I figured that's what was going to happen here. But he is generally my number 2 if I'm going to use a dark side. But without him, I mean, he's just fantastic. In most scenarios, he's going to be most people's number 1. There's just so much to be said in every incarnation of him. Even the lovely Jesse Eisenberg version, if you can tell. Everyone has brought something to the table.
Yeah.
Whether how little or how big, that's debatable. But there's always been something that.
I think we can all agree that the best one on outside of comics is Clancy Brown's Lex Luthor. From
the animated series, of course. I mean, that's what I hear when I. Yeah. Honest to God, when I read Luthor, that's what I hear. Yeah.
Although I do think James Woods' Luthor in Justice League Action.
But there's just something about a guy who, if Superman wasn't in the equation, probably the greatest man on Earth would probably be him. Yeah. He's physically fit. He's got all the money in the world. He's super smart. He could do whatever he wanted, and he could be the world's savior. If he applied himself, we can see that he could be the world's greatest superhero if he wanted. The greatest hero if he wanted.
But his ego forbids it.
Exactly. And it's just, he's his own worst enemy, and he turns all of that hate and disdain he has and ego towards Superman, and he sees himself as the greatest being on the planet, and then here comes Superman, and he just can't live with it. And it's fantastic to see, and I mean, again, to keep going back to the animated, it's just like, he's just fantastic. I mean, there's nothing that can be said to, and...
sorry.
No, last thing I want to say is even, I'm not a fan of the Jesse Eisenberg version, but I'm going to be nice here, and like I said, something that he did give some credits to, the scene with the painting in the background with the angels and the demons, that is a really good scene.
Yeah, it's a Luthor thing to do.
Yeah, it's very Luthor-centric. The actual conversation that's happening, you can see Luthor really. So, I mean, he really tapped in, and he hit in that scene, I feel he really did hit a home run. He may not physically look like him, and he may act like a fool throughout the rest of the movie, but that one scene doesn't save the movie, but it is clearly his best scene.
It also doesn't help that, you're a Luther fanboy up here, right?
You got it.
I can almost
Mr. Chrome Dome right here.
I can get some good luck here, Rub Buddha head for good luck.
So I guess moving on.
I just want to say real quick about Luthor is that I think what's the most interesting about Luthor is that even though he's Superman's arch enemy, Superman could have just easily blown him away with a heat vision,
right?
And it's so because that's always been the most fascinating thing about him being Superman's arch enemy is that he's such an easy enemy. If Superman really wanted to, he could have dealt with this problem long ago, but he won't, and that's what he thinks always will make him. That's the other thing that'll make him better than Luthor. And Luthor, I've always dug that one of his prime reasons of why he hates Superman so much is that he's afraid that mankind's going to stagnate because, Superman's here. He can fix all the problems.
Fix it. There's no exactly.
And I've always dug that idea for Superman is that he's afraid of what mankind will do now that we have Superman. He's just like, we could advance so much But now Superman's here. So, you know, I've got to, you know, for the good of the world and for my ego.
I'm going to take him out for you.
Yeah.
So moving on, I guess that would put if he's my number 3 and you.
That's where's my number 2. Where's
so
your number 2?
I guess it's going to be my number 2. My number 2 is going to be someone who doesn't honestly have a lot of depth in him, but just for his sheer impact on comics. And when this incident happened, I was at a very young enough age to where it impacted me dramatically, and we're talking Doomsday. He's not, again, there's not a lot of depth to the character, and there's only so much. He's maybe a one-trick pony, if you will. But I'm telling you, man, when that comic came out, and I just couldn't believe it. There's no way. And obviously he didn't die. And this was before we all understood, because comics, they always come back.
Yeah, their death is like power napping.
Yeah, so, but to that point, when it came, unless you, to our younger audience, you guys will never know, unfortunately, how much it affected just pop culture. Like, this was the first time, when I was growing up, comics, obviously, I'm in my 30s, and I'm an 80s baby. So in the 90s, when this was going on, if you were a comic book fan, I was never like the unpopular kid that was beat up or anything like that, but I was never like the life of the party, if you will. You know, it was just never something. If you like comics, you could have been the coolest kid. If you like comics, you're like, but you like comics? What's wrong with you? Like, don't you know that's
it's not like that today.
Yeah, no, clearly it's not. I mean, they're making billions of dollars off of what we found interesting 10, 20, 30 years ago. But seriously, the impact that the death of Superman had on pop culture, not just comics, like, it was talked about on the news, it was talked about in TV shows. Like, I remember it showing up on Saturday Night Live. Like, I'm serious, like, as a kid, just to see everyone's finally getting it. And then, I'll be honest, I was never that big of a Superman fan at that point, but just the impact, the fact that someone killed the unkillable. Like, I just in shock, if you will. And it always lasted with me. And the dude, aesthetically, he's a monster. The guy, I mean, aesthetically, he's drawn. I mean, when you first see him in the green cover, in the welder suit, I like to call it, if you will. I mean, you're like, what does he look like? What is this creature?
He's essentially like if Jason Voorhees hulked out.
That is perfect. That's some fan fiction for you guys out there. And then he just is this monster that's unstoppable, that essentially killed Superman by pounding him into the ground.
Yeah. And he didn't die. Like, the other scary thing is that you can't kill him the same way.
Yeah, you can't kill him the same way twice. So it's
and Superman had to literally send him to the end of time to stop him.
And exactly. So it comes to a point where, now I'm also talking Doomsday. I'm not talking about the Doomsday virus, type of Doomsdays, or the 10,000 clones that we have seen from time to time. But that original incarnation of him is just absolutely terrifying. It's like if Superman can't really stop him, and to some degree, at some point, you're going to find, like, there's only so many ways you can kill somebody.
Yeah.
Eventually, he's going to get to the point where he just can't be stopped. Yeah.
And remember in the Hunter Price story where Darkseid is like, I'm going to use my Omega beams, and Doomsday's like, ha, bitch, please.
I mean, he's just fantastic. And then when he showed back up in Rebirth, I was just, I was very happy.
Like when you see Superman die for the first time, someone had to have been like, does anyone have the phone number for Goku?
Right? You got to call someone, right? Because Batman's not going to kick him in the stomach like he did Hulk. I'm sorry, that's just not going to happen to Doomsday. So yeah, that's going to be my number 2 on this particular list.
So I guess I know what our number 1 is. I wonder because it's a mystery, right? It's Brainiac.
Right, same here.
Yeah. Brainiac is so interesting as a villain because obviously he's the one who destroyed Krypton. He essentially killed Superman's father, by extension,
Right.
He's such a terrifying villain because you don't know he could pop out of a toaster, really.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that Superman can live for a very long time, but he's gonna die. Brainiac's eternal.
Yeah, so when Superman's gone, who's gonna save us, basically. Exactly. No, I'm right there with you. He's my number one as well. Brainiac. He's just he's menacing to all hell. Like the story told us, you know, every incarnation that we've ever got from him, you know, you didn't even know you were dealing with the real guy. You know, he was still sitting back billions of light years away, just laughing the fact that you're even putting up a fight to his droid. It's like, you can barely handle my servant robot, if you will. This is the guy that pumps my gas, if you will, cleans my toilets. I sent him out to just scope the earth, and you know, you're sitting here trying to punch him to oblivion, thinking you're stopping me? Please. The dude is just awesome. I mean, and even what we got out of, again, going back to the animated, you know, just even that incarnation of him is fantastic. And when he merges with Luther, and oh man, everything about the character is great.
He is just this terrifying force that even Superman's like, I'm scared of him. You know?
Yeah.
He could come at me no matter what I do. You know.
I mean, he's you know, and it also goes to show that even like when Superman gets corrupted in Injustice, you know, from the play out of the Injustice 2, it was enough for him to rethink his strategy and team back up once again, you know, with Batman, you know, and put their differences aside even for a short time, you know, to kind of come out and, you know, Brainiac is a bigger threat. Yeah. We got to stop him.
And in the New 52, they did something. They kind of made him like Galactus in a way, but I don't know if I was kind of like, on it, because they redid Cyborg Superman as like his herald, and he was Kara's father.
Yeah.
But I think they did away with that. Brought Hank Henshaw back in Rebirth. But I think it was cool that he is treated as such a. He's in the same sense as Darkseid, where he's like, it's no longer a Darkseid is no longer just a Superman villain. Brainiac's considered also like a DC villain these days. Like, when he shows up, get everybody.
Right, exactly. And I mean, just aesthetically looking at the character, you know, maybe the 70s. Like if you went back and look at some of the 70s and stuff like that, he's kind of goofy looking. I was like, but for the time frame, he was, and then in every incarnation since then, he's just aesthetically just grows and grows with the times too. So he evolves as a character.
And that's his whole thing, is evolution.
Oh, well, clearly, yeah. That and collecting, if you will.
Yeah.
No, guys, so definitely that's our top 10. Yeah. We obviously shared quite a few. I mean, when we're talking the greatest of Superman, you know, maybe we should converse a little bit to kind of mix it up. But hey.
But that actually, like, it's kind of fun not knowing the villain.
Yeah, of course. That's kind of why I'd never ask you what it is. Yeah. It's because I myself, I'm a fan of wanting to know what you think. So
and there's only an X amount of Superman villains, you know.
True. But then again, we did some pretty good, you know, kind of going outside of the box with Starro and whatnot. Yeah. So that's our top 10. Who are your guys' top 10? Let us know in the comments below. Again, guys, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the video. We really do appreciate the support as we grow here as a community. And guys, also click the notification bell to become part of the notification squad. And
once again, see you once more in the universe.